Cooper Flagg recently appeared on the Brotherhood Podcast, and it was great. We're so fired up for basketball season. We've got the Paris Olympics taking place right now. Former Duke basketball players and current Duke basketball players making headlines. How awesome is that? All that today on Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us on Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, bringing you all the great Duke news, insight, and analysis. Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham joins us on today's show. We got to talk about this Cooper Flagg appearance on the Ball Durham podcast. We'll talk about on the Brotherhood podcast. We'll talk about what's been going on at the Paris Olympics and a whole lot of other things coming up on today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, share it with your friends, follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, I'm very excited to welcome him into the program. It is none other than Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham, who did not interview Cooper Flagg on the Ball Durham podcast. I just misspoke. But, Kevin, that podcast in itself, getting a good bit of attention. I hope you're doing well, my friend.
I'm doing good, JJ. You know, I haven't interviewed Cooper Flagg. Hopefully soon, though. That'll. We don't have a podcast on Ball Durham, but hopefully I'll be in his presence soon enough. We can get another story about Cooper up on Ball Durham. But
yeah,
great to be with you. And it was really interesting. We've seen a lot of newcomers on the Brotherhood podcast. And I think everyone was waiting for Cooper Flagg, and it finally dropped this morning.
What have you thought of the content? I mean, we saw today also Duke basketball letting us know that Con and Isaiah would be coming up next in episodes of the Brotherhood podcast. They had a new fan question segment that they did at the very end of the show. I was concerned. You and I were kind of the biggest fans of Ryan Young, the podcaster, a super fan of what he was able to do over these last two seasons. And yet, while Caleb Foster has been kind of the primary host, other people have been in that chair, they keep pumping out content, man.
Yeah, it's great. Caleb Foster has taken the torch and run with it. You talk about Con going on the podcast. The hype around Con continues to grow and grow and grow. You look at the last three podcasts that Duke has put out with the Brotherhood Pod, and one of the main questions that Caleb Foster asked whoever it is, in this case it was Sion James, Malik Brown, and now Cooper Flagg, like, who has impressed you the most? Who has stood out to you the most in these workouts? And they've all said Con. Like, I think there's a lot of hype. There's a Con hype train building right now here, late July, early August. That was one of the first things that I wanted to mention about Cooper Flagg's appearance, that he is also aboard the Con hype train.
Which I'm aboard, you're aboard. I think Con's going to be able to do great things this season for the Duke basketball team, and excited to see how all the pieces fit together. Excited to hear not only from Cooper Flagg, but as you said, other guys kind of applauding their teammates and getting that work in. People are always concerned about how impactful the summer months going into the fall can be for college basketball teams, particularly these last few years, right? Ever since 2018, when the NCAA transfer portal comes into effect, a couple of years later, NIL becomes a big thing that we're talking about all the time. You're like, okay, what do these summer sessions look like for these college basketball programs? For Duke, you've had a couple of players coming and going for various stints with the Olympics going on, but they've put in a lot of work, and it seems like everybody's kind of buying in and really starting to love playing with one another.
Yeah, guys have come and gone, like you said. Kaman Malawak obviously not going to be there for the completion of summer workouts, which I think wrap up this week. Cooper Flagg missed a week going to USA basketball training camp and the ESPYs. And then you had a handful of other guys, Tyrese Proctor, Isaiah Evans, Con, and Sion. They were all playing at the Jason Tatum and Chris Paul elite camps for a couple of days. So People have come and gone, but I think for the most part, summer workouts is about getting that fundamental team chemistry, building individual sessions, just trying to improve individually and eventually collectively as basketball players. And from what we've seen, and again, it hasn't been much. We only had that one scrimmage video drop. That was, I think, the first or second day of summer workouts. But from what we've seen, it seems like that's certainly the case. And it seems like Duke's getting a little bit healthy, too, with Darren Harris coming back and joining summer workouts after the broken hand.
Which we love to see. All right, so Cooper Flagg, the latest guy on the Brotherhood Podcast, talking a lot about his recruitment. We'll talk a little recruiting here on today's show, Kevin. And Cooper Flagg was asked about, what does that race look like? He confirmed to Caleb Foster that the final two schools in the picture were Duke and Yukon. He mentioned after his visit to Duke for Countdown to Craziness, he wanted to go back and chat with his family, take some time to reflect on what happened. But when it was all said and done, the more he thought about it, Duke was the place for him to end up.
Yeah, down to Duke and Yukon, two schools that obviously are at the forefront of college basketball. Duke always is. Yukon now back-to-back two-time national champions. Now, they weren't a two-time national champion when he was making his decision, but they were still the reigning national champions. And he threw a little bit of shade, saying that these two schools were his two finalists. And it was very clear. It was like Yukon wasn't more so. It seemed, and he didn't specifically say this, or put the puzzle pieces together, and you would assume he's talking about Yukon, but they were more disrecruiting him from Duke, or trying to recruit him away from Duke, giving him reasons why he shouldn't go to Duke, then come to Yukon. And that's kind of the gist of what he said. And obviously those clips are going to make its way around social media. Yukon has a very big social media presence, as you would expect. You have your group of diehards, but a lot of people probably jumping on the bandwagon with Danny Hurley, and he turns down the Lakers, and he's a two-time back-to-back national champion. But certainly it feels like these two fan bases this year with Cooper Flagg, even though they're not playing in the regular season, are going to be going at each other quite a bit on social media.
Yeah, it was a fun race. Make sure you go check out Locked On Yukon. I know that our buddy Mark over there has done a great job following the recruitment of Cooper Flagg from the Yukon angle and talking about how good of a team they're expected to be this upcoming season. But that was a little interesting to hear Cooper talk about that. And even beyond the Yukon angle, right, I appreciated, Kevin, Caleb Foster being able to share his insights, right? I don't know that I don't believe Yukon to have been very heavily involved in Caleb Foster's recruitment. However, he did say, as a top-rated guard in the entire country, when he was going through the recruiting process, that other major programs were recruiting against Duke rather than selling their program. So it appears that was not just Cooper, that both those guys were talking about it. And they even mentioned it was a conversation in the locker room the other day. So who knows what other players were able to speak up and share their experiences. Look, if you want to be the best, I guess you kind of want to act like the best. And Duke's been really, really damn good at recruiting over the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, I think it gives a perfect insight onto what other schools use as recruiting tactics, what these two said. Because, like you said, Yukon wasn't after Caleb Foster, so I think a lot of West Coast schools were. But you look at it, and it's like, yeah, okay, a lot of other schools are doing this. They're trying to tell these guys who seem to be leans towards Duke, or Duke is the favorite in their recruitment, they're not selling their own schools. They're trying to throw shade at Duke. They're trying to bring Duke into the mud and almost, like I said, like persuading them not to go to Duke. One story I'll have on that, and it's quick. One Hall of Fame coach, and a lot of Duke fans are familiar with him with his time in the ACC, and that's Rick Pitino. And Rick Pitino has told stories about when he's recruiting, I guess now you could say either transfer portal or high school recruits, he doesn't mention other schools once. That's something he said on the record in press conferences. I'm sure your listeners out there have probably heard him talk about it. He doesn't talk about the other schools. He only tries to sell his school and his player development system. And he doesn't bring up other schools at all, whether it's his rivals, blue bloods, whatever. So that's one coach who claims to say he doesn't do any of that stuff. But obviously, there's a bunch around the country that if they can't get a recruit, they're going to try to steer him away from another program as well. And that seems to be Duke right now.
Without a doubt. So very interesting stuff there on the recruiting front in regards to Cooper Flagg, who will be playing basketball for Duke this upcoming season. I've had more thoughts about 2025 high school recruiting. I want to share those with you, Kevin, as we reflect, and we'll do that after we take this first time out coming up on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. This time of year, we know that betting on Major League Baseball is everybody's favorite thing to do. Trade deadline is today. What big moves are going to be made? I'm smiling today because the Atlanta Braves went out and required World Series MVP Jorge Soler to bring him back. He won World Series MVP in 2021 with the Braves. Hopefully they can go on another big run, and we're seeing some great lines for the Braves in those playoff races. A whole lot of other teams as well that you could find over at FanDuel. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. We've got the Summer Olympics going on. We've got epic races each and every weekend, the big fights in UFC, and so much more. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. Keep going here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside Kevin Connelly as we talk about what's going on in the world of Duke basketball recruiting in the class of 2025. Recruiting in general, really. About a week and a half ago, I had our good friend Brandon Jenkins, who's a national recruiting insider for 24/7 Sports, on the program, kind of talking about where Duke stood with certain 2025 recruits. And the larger discussion was that going into Peach Jam and the final weekend in Peach Jam, not a single player ranked inside the top 20 in the class of 2025 had made their college decision. Really unprecedented where we're at when we kind of look at what these high school recruiting rankings or recruits look like in terms of what school they'll be going to, because nobody is really making the decision. At the end of last week, we saw Darius Acuff, one of the top players in the country, commit to John Calipari and Arkansas, one of his first big gets there as the Razorbacks head coach. But yeah, Kevin, I mean, it's just been so strange. And obviously, Duke fans, we freaking love Duke basketball recruiting. We're ready for the next guy to join the Brotherhood, but nobody in 2025 is making those decisions right now.
You know, it's really interesting, and I've thought the same thing over the last several months as well. And the thing that comes to the forefront of my mind when thinking about this is the transfer portal, right? Are these recruits holding back from committing to colleges because the spots on rosters where they're committing to might not be there in 6, 7, 8 months when you have everybody and their mother in college basketball jumping into the transfer portal? And coaches have said throughout the country, and John Shire has even said this, they want the experience. Yes, you want the top 15 recruits in the country of high school seniors going to be college freshmen. The talent is just undeniable. And it feels like this upcoming recruiting class, even the current freshman class in college right now with Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and VJ Edgecombe, it feels like these two classes are really solid. So it's a little bit interesting why these players haven't committed yet, because I think a lot of people talked about this 2024 NBA draft and how weak it was and how there wasn't a lot of big-time freshmen in college basketball, but that's not going to be the case in 2025 and 2026 for the NBA draft. There seem to be blue-chip, franchise-changing players at the top of each draft class, but you look at this 2025 recruiting and nobody has committed. And it's certainly interesting, but like I said, the first thing that comes to my mind with that is the transfer portal, and some of these players are holding back, waiting till the late signing period to commit and sign with schools once they have a better handle on what spots are going to be available and where vacancies are going to be on rosters when everything shakes out with the portal into March, April, and May.
Yeah, you're going into your senior season of high school basketball, and maybe now it looks like the move is let me watch a little bit of the start of the college basketball season. Maybe that gets an idea for me as to who's not playing a whole lot, who could potentially be a little unhappy, come the end of the year. I mean, it's wild that we're getting to that point, but I mean, what else look at all the proof that we've seen in just the differences in this college basketball game over the last 2 years.
Well, it's also interesting, JJ, because in past years, it was a lot of players wanted to commit and then sign their national letter of intent in the fall before their high school season started because, knock on wood, God forbid, that player got injured. And if you already had signed your NLI, a school couldn't pull it. And if you're still uncommitted and you haven't signed anywhere, a school could technically pull their offer, pull their scholarship from you. Say if you, again, knock on wood, God forbid, tore your ACL, broke your leg, suffered an injury that was going to linger into next season. So that used to be a thing. And it seems like right now it's not really a thing anymore.
We will see what happens next in the Duke basketball recruiting front because, Kevin, they clearly have a lot of interest out there, right? They've got several top targets that they want to ultimately become Blue Devils. The longer this goes on, the worse I start to feel about the Boozer twins. And then I have more people talking to me to hype me back up that it's going to end in Duke's direction. I know I'm not the only one in that boat that wants this obviously to ultimately end up with both Cameron and Caden playing for the Blue Devils. Maybe that's kind of the first big domino to fall for this 2025 class as we look at those other kind of prospects that Duke might have out there.
Yeah, I think those two are the top two on the Duke basketball recruiting board right now. I know around Peach Jam, people had said Miami was the favorite. And then you heard trickles coming out that, well, the lock of them staying home and going to Miami wasn't as sure of a thing anymore. And Duke and Florida had closed the gap on the Hurricanes. When you talk about some of these big-time players and their recruitments, even Cooper Flagg. I mean, Cooper Flagg's recruitment was really quiet up until he reclassified and started dwindling down his favorites. I think his top three ended up being Duke, Yukon, and Kansas, and then he eventually pulled out of Kansas and canceled his visit. And things had really been quiet, and I don't think it became public. As soon as he reclassified, he took an unofficial visit to Duke and ran with the guys. Obviously, he took the picture with Sean Stewart when they were teammates at Montverde Academy.
Yep.
So maybe, the Boozers have gone on their official visit to Duke. They were at the game against Arizona this past season. But maybe now, once we hit August, I'm pretty sure the AAU circuits are coming to a close if they haven't already. And a lot of these players are going to begin their school years now in the next couple of weeks. So maybe you'll start to see some recruiting news pick up, not just with Duke, but around the country over the next couple of days and weeks.
Let's hope, because it's so exciting to cover, and I know that we'll be able to do that ourselves. So what we can't cover each and every year is the Olympics, one of the best events in basketball, coming around every 4 years. It's currently off and running, an off day for Team USA. They're back in action tomorrow. How is Duke connected in all of this? We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be wrapping up the conversation with our good pal Kevin Connelly when we return here on Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at Factor Meals. That's right, with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Keep kitchen time to a minimum as Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes. No shopping, no prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. It's ready to go for you. So head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use code LockedOnCollege50, that's 50, to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's awesome. Again, that's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while the subscription is still active. Factor Meals, proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Telling you also about Ibotta, another sponsor that we're happy to get back here with us on the network. Ibotta, a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, toys, so you can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or maybe it's just the fancy dinners that you have been craving. You could save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Best Buy, and so much more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson joined today by Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham. Tell us a little bit about your work, Kevin.
Well, we got everything you could possibly want over at balldurham.com. Always on top of Duke basketball stuff, recruiting as well that we just talked about. We're going to get into it now with the Olympics, and then obviously talking about the guys on the current roster as well. And then a couple of days, you're going to turn the page to August, football season. We're on top of that as well over at balldurham.com. So come give us a read every single day. Come follow us on social media at ball_Durham. We got some good stuff working heading into this new athletic year.
Yeah, Kevin is on X as well at Kevin Connelly 24. A lot of really good stuff. So go check out all of his content. So with that in mind, Kevin, I want to start with our country. I want to finish with our country. We'll finish with the United States. But a couple of other players right now getting the opportunity with Duke associations, Duke ties, to represent their native countries in the Olympics. What can you tell us about those players?
Well, I think let's start first with maybe right now the MVP of the men's basketball event in the Olympics, and that's RJ Barrett. Led Canada a 2-0 record, a win early this morning. If anyone got up and watched it, I know I did, over Australia a couple of days ago. He led them to a victory as well, scoring 23 points. Today he had 24. He's led them in scoring in both games. Right now he leads everybody in the Olympics in scoring with 23.5 points per game. Now, granted, not everybody has played 2 games yet in pool play, but right now it's RJ Barrett leading the pack as the leading scorer in the Olympics. And I think a lot of people expect the gold medal match to be the United States and Canada certainly showing why right now. Victory over Giannis and Greece in their first game of pool play, and then beating Australia in game 2, and then they'll take on Spain, I think in a couple of days, either Thursday or Friday. They'll take on Spain. With the 2-0 record, they've already clinched a spot into the knockout round. So going to be seeing a little bit more of RJ Barrett and Team Canada going forward here in the Olympics.
Yeah, really fun to see RJ doing what he's doing. The Zion hype that year in some ways took away from what we remember about what RJ was able to do in his lone season at Duke. An unbelievable scoring season, nearly scored 2,000 points in a single season for the Duke Blue Devils. 1,000, I may be misspeaking there, but nonetheless, really, really good stuff there from RJ in his one season. And then this year, you get drafted, you're playing for the Knicks. It's so hard to play in New York. And truthfully, he was doing a fine job. Then he gets the trade opportunity to his hometown Toronto Raptors in Canada, now getting to represent his national team. It's been like a really big year basketball-wise, I think, once again for RJ Barrett.
Yeah, and then he had obviously the tragic loss in his family middle of the season. So it has been a really trying year for RJ Barrett. And one thing I'll point to close our conversation about him is when you look back at even his amateur career playing for Team Canada internationally in like the FIBA U16 and 17 World Cups and et cetera, and even last year at the FIBA World Cup, he's one of the best players, in my opinion, in the history of Canadian men's basketball on the international stage. And that's a lot to say already for such a young player, but yeah, what he did in his high school days and now doing it here on the national stage, I think Team Canada either won silver or bronze last year at the FIBA World Cup. And then obviously getting the berth into the Olympics and going 2-0 and being the contender right behind Team USA. It says a lot about him, and RJ Barrett really shines in this FIBA-style basketball international competition.
Without a doubt, really happy for him. Again, 860 total points in one season for Duke, nearly 1,000 just playing one basketball season for the Blue Devils. Awesome stuff there from RJ. All right, we're nearing the finish line here on the show, Kevin. So a quick rundown, if you will, on the current Blue Devil, and then everybody is talking about what's going on with Jason Tatum. So give us the latest.
Yeah, so right now we're expecting to see the both of them on the floor together tomorrow afternoon. So first, Common Malawak, South Sudan. Only 6 minutes in their first game of pool play. It was a victory over Puerto Rico. Had 2 points and a rebound. Missed 1 3-pointer, but solid piece off the bench. Not going to get that many minutes, but good to see him. Interesting to see. Obviously, Team USA is very big. Will he get more minutes tomorrow night? The exhibition South Sudan played, nearly pulling the upset off Team USA, was really his coming out party where he shined with, I think, 7 points and 5 rebounds in that scrimmage. So we'll see what's in store for him. And the biggest talking point right now of the men's basketball portion of the Olympics is Jason Tatum, DNP, coach's decision in Team USA's victory over Serbia. Him and Tyrese Halliburton, the only two that didn't play. Steve Kerr said not playing a player like Jason Tatum made him feel like an idiot. But it was the matchups he wanted, and he wanted more guards out there. And obviously the return of Kevin Durant took minutes away from Jason Tatum. Kendrick Perkins on ESPN said that Team USA, which their managing director is Grant Hill, a Blue Devil, embarrassed and disrespected Jason Tatum. But Steve Kerr did say that he is going to play against South Sudan. We'll see how much. But certainly all eyes right now are on Jason Tatum and his role with Team USA. And when you look back at the last Olympics in 2020, Kevin Durant was the best player on that gold medal winning Team USA squad. Who was their second best player? It was Jason Tatum. And he gets a DNP after winning an NBA championship, a 3-time all NBA first teamer. So really interesting that he didn't get to play against Serbia.
Yeah, strange decision for sure, to say the least. And yet the United States look really good. Hopefully that trend continues. Hopefully we get a great level of Kevin Durant and LeBron James doing his thing at 39 years old, and Steph Curry, the old heads kind of for this Team USA squad, but then they can kind of turn it over to Jason Tatum. Do you feel better about the United States' chances of getting gold after that first game?
I thought they were going to get gold going into that game. I still think they're going to get gold after the game. Now, obviously, just a quick sidebar. Yes, we want to see Jason Tatum out there as Duke fans, but my goodness, what Kevin Durant did.
He was awesome.
After missing training camp and not playing in any of the scrimmages and not playing 5-on-5 since the Phoenix Suns season ended. I mean, that was just special as two basketball junkies and fans right here. That was incredible to watch.
Did not miss a single 3-point shot and kind of led the way for Team USA. So we'll see South Sudan and USA going at it tomorrow, and you'll have a lot of coverage over at Ball Durham. Kevin, the time is always greatly appreciated, my friend. We'll do this again sometime soon, okay?
Can't wait, JJ. Thanks.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham joining us on the show. Always do appreciate him taking the time to join us, and appreciate you for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen or first watch each and every day. Go check out Locked On College Basketball. Go check out Locked On ACC. A lot of really good stuff going on here at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.